Sequoyah Book Award Committee Orientation. Congratulations on being chosen for one of OLA's Sequoyah Reading Committees. In this orientation, we will cover who is on the Sequoyah Reading teams and admin teams, expectations for each team member, criteria for selecting master list titles, and we'll show you what a typical meeting is like. Each Sequoyah team is made up of 5 school librarians, 5 public librarians, 1 education consultant who is a professional librarian who teaches the appropriate age grade range of literature at the college level. Each team also has a publisher liaison who reaches out to publishers to request titles to be sent to team members, but is a non-voting member of the team and will not attend meetings. And each team has a chair and chair-elect. Your chair is the main point of contact for anything throughout the year. Some teams have additional offices such as secretary. The Sequoyah administration team is made up of 7 people, including the current reading team chairs of all 3 teams, Adrian Butler, ODL Youth Services Consultant, and its own chair, chair-elect, and past chair who have previously served on a Sequoyah committee. Each member of the Sequoyah reading team must meet the following expectations to ensure continued membership on their respective Sequoyah team. They are required yearly membership with the Oklahoma Library Association, required attendance at regularly scheduled, usually monthly, reading team meetings, a minimum of at least 12 days, required attendance at the Spring OLA Annual Conference each year, a minimum of 1 day. Members can attend the conference just to present the day of the reading team's presentation. They do not have to pay for and attend the entire conference. Required attendance at OTA Encyclomedia each year, a minimum of 1 day. Members can attend the conference just to present the day of the reading team's presentation. They do not have to pay for and attend the entire OTA Encyclomedia conference. Create Sequoyah book talks and other promotional materials and promote the list at OLA and OTA Encyclomedia conferences. Failure to meet any of the requirements without express permission granted from the administrative team chair for extenuating circumstances will result in immediate removal from the team. So please let your chair know if anything does arise, and they will consult the administrative team and move forward from there. Sequoyah team members are expected to read as many books as possible from the consideration list, which can run up to 150 to 200 to even 300 titles. That's an average of reading 2 to 3 books per week. Failure to read can result in removal from the Sequoyah reading team. Now let's take a look at Sequoyah consideration. What qualifies and why? In terms of eligibility for any books that will be eligible during your time on Sequoyah, eligible titles are those published between January 1st and December 31st and are copyrighted 2 years preceding the date of winner announcement. Titles previously published in another country are eligible only if an American edition has been published during the period of eligibility, provided other criteria are met. Works by multiple authors or editors, or a combination of author and illustrator, resulting in a single story, are eligible for the consideration list and award, so short story collections are not eligible. Titles that are self-published only in ebook format and are published by a publisher outside of the U.S. will not be considered eligible until the first year the book is available in print or distributed through a U.S. publishing house. Titles have to have received at least 2 favorable reviews in standard review and professional journals to be considered for inclusion. Eligible Sequoyah titles that are read by committee members are evaluated on the following criteria: literary merit, originality, factual accuracy, clarity and readability, and age and grade appropriateness of content and subject matter. Literary merit in relation to the Sequoyah criteria can be seen as the book having the whole package and that it encompasses many of the other criteria. It has meaningful and realistic character development. The plot is well paced, the story continues on in a readable way for the age group, and typically you can't put it down. The writing is exemplary. The use of literary devices are clear and language matches the type of story it is telling, such as humorous titles might have sharp, witty writing, while a fantasy has lush, descriptive writing. And finally, it sits with you. You think about it long after you finish it and it stands out to you as a literary work. Originality. Two main points to look at in discussing if a work is original would be, is this work a new take on something old? We have the coming-of-age stories, family drama, epic fantasies, fairy tale retellings, dystopians, etc., and you will continue to see these stories as you read. But are these new titles taking these stories and turning them on their head? Do they feel like they are adding something new to the genre? Are the themes and characters presented in a fresh way that make you think, wow, I love it, as opposed to, I've heard this one before, or it's a knockoff of, insert popular title here. Looking at factual accuracy, we want to break it down by what this looks like for nonfiction and fiction. For nonfiction works that show outstanding factual accuracy, they credit their sources. From photos to quotations, you can see where they got their information from. And overall, the work is presenting the topic using factual information and not biased opinions. For fiction, it's more subjective when looking at factual accuracy. Really, you're looking at, does the book overall read realistically? Are the characters making decisions that would make sense for that age group or sense for the events taking place in the book? If real people or places are incorporated, are they done so accurately? For clarity and readability, you want to look at the overall book and is it understandable? Does it have clear writing that helps the reader move along without convoluted metaphors and wording choices that muddle the overall story? Is it written for the intended age level or would be understood by most at the age level you're choosing for? It might be the best book ever, but if kids would have a hard time understanding it, then it lacks readability. And finally, even the physical presentation of the book is considered when looking at this particular aspect of the consideration criteria. Is the font small? Do the graphics or illustrations not flow along with the story? Those physical aspects of the books you're reading should also be carefully considered. Finally, age grade appropriateness of content and subject matter. For children's, you are selecting titles for 3rd through 5th graders, ranging in ages from 8 to 11. At this level of books, you have no profanity, graphic violence, or sexuality, except maybe a first kiss. Intermediate selects titles for 6th through 8th graders, typically ranging in age from 11 to 14. Books written at this level have no explicitly graphic depictions of edgy subjects, but can tackle edgy subjects and the overall themes of the book. There might be some profanity and romantic relationships have moved past the first kiss. High school is selecting titles for 9th through 12th graders ranging in ages from 14 to 18 plus. Profanity, graphic violence, romance, and sexuality are seen but not required of all high school titles. Of course, these are typical guidelines for some basic subject matter to be aware of for each level, but remember, it's all about context. For example, let's look at the book Roller Girl by Victoria Jameson, which was on a past children's and intermediate master list, and was the children's winner that year. It worked well for both of these age groups because of the overall story and themes, as well as the professional reviews recommended it from 4th to 8th grade. There was use of the word ass, which looking at the criteria would bump it off a children's pick, but the word was not excessively used, and the context of its use was that the main character was being bullied for her name, which was Astrid. This is why each team is made up of a diverse group of librarians from different backgrounds to help determine appropriateness for these lists for students all over the state of Oklahoma. Now that we know the criteria for Sequoia Master List titles, here's a reminder of some things that typically come up but aren't technically criteria. While we want books to be understood by the intended students, reading level itself, such as AR, Lexile, etc., is not considered. Girl-boy appeal is also not a consideration, so even if you have issues with a book being considered because you feel there are already too many girl books in consideration, that's not an aspect for consideration. Your library's collection development policy should not be considered as you are on a team selecting master list titles for all Oklahoma students in those respective grades. And it is not the intention of committees that every student must read every book on each master list. For example, if your school only has 4th through 6th graders, you might not order every children's or intermediate master list title because some titles would fall outside of the interest and appropriateness for your students. And finally, but I liked it, will not work if you are trying to argue for a title to be on the master list. If you cannot articulate why a book you like meets all the actual criteria other than I like/loved it most likely won't make the final list because that is simply not enough to say that it is Sequoia worthy. One of the perks of being on the Sequoia committee is that you will receive thousands of dollars of free books to consider for Sequoia. Now, not every book you receive will be eligible, and even if they are eligible, not every book will need to be read or considered by the entire team. Your team chair can give you some more information on that. Whatever you do with your books, whether you put them in your collection or give them away, just be sure you are not allowed to sell them for personal profit, and if they're advanced reader copies, so not complete works, they cannot go in your library collection. Woo, that was a lot of information. Now to wrap things up, take a look at this short clip of what to expect at a typical Sequoia meeting. Welcome to your first Sequoia meeting. Typically, your Sequoia chair will give the team some information about things coming up, such as your conference presentations or any information they find out the administrative team meeting. Then your education consultant will give a no longer than 10-minute lesson over some topics such as literary merit or something else that your team needs a little bit more help with. And then your chair-elect will do an official vote count where you will have a chance to vote for the books and then also discuss them.
Okay, are we ready for our vote count? Our first book is Ghost by Jason Reynolds. How many have read? 3 have read. How many to keep? 2 to keep.
Okay, I just want to say, I think everybody needs to
I
read
really
this
hate
book.
this book though. It's just not really good.
Can I finish? I really love this book. I think that the writing is really strong. It has exceptional literary merit. The character is so robust and developed. I love Castle and that he doesn't like Castle as his name, which I think is like one of the best nicknames, and goes by Ghost. But his family dynamic and the way that he meets with the running club and then they slowly become his friends are just exceptional. What did you not like about it?
I mean, I just thought it was a baby book. We're picking intermediate titles, and I mean, my 6th graders wouldn't like it. They think it's dumb.
Well, he's a middle schooler.
It doesn't read. It reads like a baby, like a tiny baby.
What part did you think made him a baby?
Well, I mean, I haven't finished it, so.
You can't vote if you haven't finished.
So for the vote count, so some things we just did. Please do not interrupt when other people are discussing. There will be plenty of time for all of us to discuss our titles. Also, have the book with you or have your notes so that you can specifically mention things from the book, such as she mentioned the character's name and how the nickname and things like that. Also finish the book. If you have not finished the book, at most you might say, I started it, but please do not try to vote if you have not completely finished the book. And be respectful of each other, have good notes. Any other tips we want to?
If you really, really like something or really, really hate something, be able to back up your feelings with text and examples. Don't just say you hate it. You need to articulate what it was that disqualifies it from making the list.
And those reasons should be based on the criteria in the Sequoia handbook, not just I didn't like it.
And meetings are very important. Obviously, as we're kind of trying to discuss, it really helps to be here in person. If there's ever something that comes up, you have to tell your chair immediately if you can't come to a meeting. But that shouldn't be a regular occurrence, and you absolutely have to be at the conference presentations and that final February meeting. No ifs, ands, or buts. Thank you so much for watching this orientation. Please contact your committee chair if you have any questions whatsoever regarding Sequoia.